I don't see anything recent.
Well, it just turned it on. I just a second turned it on. I'm ready anytime you are, man.
We've had a busy week. We went and spent some time with Dr. Phil this week, did a couple of shows for him, and we'll tell you what those are all about in the coming days. We're not ready to share those yet because we spent a lot of time on them, but they're not baked yet. Everything is not finished. But we had a lot of fun. Scott and I spent probably the most time we spent together, and we're still getting along, so I guess that's a good sign.
Yeah. Fix my thing.
I got to meet Scott's brother. We hung out a little bit, met some good folks out there, spent some time in LA.
Fun.
Met Tyler. Hey, Tyler, if you're watching.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Tyler. He's in here.
Really enjoyed meeting you and Katie. Great day.
Let's see. Panel. I'm almost there. Hang on. All right. Need to get some kind of a fat filter on my face, man. That's what I need.
Yeah, well, you could. I'm sure they make one that will thin you down. Just go find it. And
I didn't have time to change my signs out. Dang it.
That's okay. Everybody knows where we're at. Guys, look at my sign if you want to sign. All right, so I'm seeing a few questions starting to come in. I see Sadie, you asked, does it affect your ability to read someone who is intoxicated? It must affect their body language, but how do you know when they're telling the truth? Part of the problem with alcohol is in light doses. We always called it in my Intel days, the great truth serum. It lowers people's inhibitions, get them to talk more freely. In fact, a lot of times it's been what spies have used on American sources, either that or attractive people, whether it's a man or a woman that the person's attracted to get information of them, and a combination of alcohol, and that usually works. The problem is alcohol starts to affect your brain in weird ways. Anybody who's ever been stuttering drunk can tell you that thoughts are connecting in weird ways, and they may not be factual. So if a person can't recall facts, if their brain is so intoxicated they can't recall true patterns, then you're wasting your time. Does their body language change? Certainly, because everything slows, motor sense is slow. And all you have to do is go to the fair and see one of those things they have at the fair to show you what it's like to drive drunk. We have those cars that, steer crooked. Or to know somebody who's been arrested for DUI, not for exceeding the speed limit, but most cops pay attention to two things. One is overly focused, kind of like Romancer on the road, and the other is driving well below the speed limit. One of my soldiers was arrested one time for doing 7 in a 55. So that gives you an idea how people's brains work on alcohol. Hopefully that helps. Sadie, great question.
So I'm getting a couple of questions on YouTube, how to join. You just go to bodylanguagemembership.com. Now, for some reason right now, there are millions of sites that when you go to them, it says, not secure or all that. It says, go ahead at your own risk. And it's a big thing on the net. Amber was telling me about it this morning. So if you go there, don't worry. It's something about forwarding the URL or something. So once you get there, go ahead and press through it. It's happening. If you're on your computer, if you're on your phone, it's no problem. But on a computer, apparently, it's a problem. So bodylanguagemembership.com, and you'll go right there. Oh, man. Okay. Settle down. Finally.
All right. So Jenna asks, what strategies and tactics helped you build rapport with Don Wells? Candidly, we didn't have strategies or tactics. We sat and talked to Don. I mean, it was just one of those things. We sat down, we talked to him. We didn't pretend to be, anything we're not cops, not any of that. He wanted to talk to us, and we talked to him. And Don was relatively easy to talk to. You could ask questions, and he responded. So I would say, if you're thinking about strategies and tactics, of course, you want to be respectful of a person who has lost a child, because everybody jumps to assumptions about any individual they're dealing with. And I will say this, the hardest part of dealing with people who've lost a child that you may have any suspicion of or not suspicion of is remembering you don't know what the answer is and not projecting that answer onto them. And I think that's what our tactic or strategy was with Don, is to listen to his story, to ask him questions, to get his information, to get what he remembers and what he has heard as truth, and to go from there. Hopefully that helps, Jenna. We didn't go in with a bunch of approaches or ploys, not telling you those don't work or they don't come into play to keep someone talking. You got to make the guy comfortable, and we certainly tried our best to make Don comfortable enough to speak with us. Scott, you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, well, when we did talk about our approach, and we tried to think of how are we going to do this? We were like, you know what, let's just go in, do what we normally do, it's one of those things where it's not our first time doing it, so we know you sort of fall into an organic way of doing it. You'll see a lot of times what happens is Greg gets up in the emotional part of it, then I'll come over here to the analytical part of it. So if they start getting all emotional, I go, let's talk about something, and get them talking about times or what something looks like, places, those kind of things. That's where we'll go to. Still gathering information down that path, but taking their head in a different way from the emotional side of it. Reason being, if they do get all emotional and they sort of run to me, then after a while, if we get them boxed in, then once they get emotional and run to me, then I jack them real good there too. And so then they run back to Greg, and it's...
Well, and I'll tell you that one of the reasons I use when we talk about me doing emotional things is I question fairly harshly. I'm pretty aggressive with questioning. And so when I get ready to go in for questioning, I'm who is, where are, when did. I can be softer, and I am often, but people's perception is powerful, and you want them to realize who you are, but you also want to be very cautious not to break a relationship with them. So Scott asked, analytical questions, that kind of thing, running down a path. And I'm typically the guy corralling them back in if they want to leave and that kind of thing, using the psychology of that. Norma, you asked a question about NLP and hypnosis. I'm just going to tell you right here, I'll put my hands up. I don't know anything about hypnosis. Never spent any time with it. Never bothered with it. Know a fair amount about NLP. Learned that when I was young. Didn't go and become a practitioner, but spent enough time looking at what added value. The eye movement piece, I thought they had a good start. Didn't finish up all the way down the path. But I'm no practitioner of NLP. I'm also not nothing about hypnosis. So I'll stop there. And Scott, you have an opinion there?
Same way. I don't know much about it. Never got into it. Never was interested in it. NLP. It's a great start, I guess.
Aaron, thanks for the question. I'm not quite sure how to frame this question. How is a person with, say, bad or missing teeth cover their teeth with their lips so quickly when smiling or laughing, as if overcoming the limbic system? Remember, and Scott, I'll let you, Scott, you want to jump in, then I'll answer at the end.
Oh, no, go ahead. Go ahead. You got it, man. I'm reading another one right now. I'm getting ready for the next one.
Yeah, so guys, limbic system only has so much power over routine or habit. And if a person covers their mouth, some people have beautiful, big, giant teeth and they show them. If you ever notice, I don't smile big, giant. It's not the way my face is structured. And, if you have teeth that you're covering because you're uncertain how they're perceived, that becomes so strong and so ritualistic that it is ingrained in you. You've contained that even when you're conscious. So when you're unconscious, it does it too, unless you break into a gigantic smile. And even with my happiest smiles, my teeth don't show much because of the structure of my face. So remember that anything we do over and over and over becomes a habit. So you'll see people digging at their nails without thinking about it, covering their teeth without thinking about it too, because they know their teeth are ratty or they don't look good. Or some people are missing teeth. Some people just don't have pretty teeth. So it is a routine and it takes over. Scott, you want to add something?
Nah. Okay, Kristen Smith has a great question. Once you find deception, how do you approach telling someone that you know they are lying? You don't. Most of the time, depending on what the situation is, because if you say that, then they're on notice and they're ready for you. So you want to keep asking. The thing you want to know mostly, finding a lie, that's no big deal. We can all do it, as you know now. It's all academic. But what you're looking for is the Holy Grail, is finding out why they're lying, why they're lying about something. What is the reason for that? So when you know they're lying, that's good, but you can't let them know you're lying. You can't go, or anything like that. You just have to keep accepting it like it's real, because you may have at that point, depending on where you are, have information that already contradicts that, and they don't know you have that information yet. So as you go forward, you can start boxing them in with that from a logic perspective, which we had a situation like that this week.
We did. Guys, I will also tell you this. If you tell somebody they're lying, you're disrupting a relationship, and you may be wrong, right? In some cases, lots of things can cause stress in people. So I want you to think about relationships and how important they are, and sometimes it's okay to call people out on something, sometimes it's not. I also think that once you tell someone, to Scott's point, you've lost your chance to use that tool ever again. So they're going to pay attention to you. They're going to be really close on you. Sometimes it's smarter just to hold on to the fact, they told a little white lie. If it's a big one that's going to hurt someone, different story.
Here's one. Erlene Marks. Elrine. Elrin?
That's your southernism. Elrin, yeah. It looks like to me.
Elrin. Elrin. Okay. Do you have tips to practice real-time observations? Sometimes I find it hard to take it all in. That's the most important thing, is observation. Yeah. So you as you begin observing, you try to take it all in. You can't. But as you go along, once you see someone, like from today forward, don't go in with all you know and start trying to look at everything. Pick one thing. First thing you see jump out. Let it, notice it. Then wait for something else to jump out. Don't try to take it all in. After a while, you'll be able to see that first thing, and as you're observing that, you'll be able to watch another part, something happen, or you'll notice something. You'll be able to start collecting these things and put them in a collection that's good for your brain, the way you do it. If we say do it like this, then you'll try to do it like that. It may not be the best for you. So just observe, and as you go along, you'll get used to doing that, and you'll get used to collecting the information you're seeing.
Yeah, and I will tell you that many years ago I wrote a book called I Can Read You Like a Book. And I Can Read You Like a Book, I put together a process for teaching people who didn't understand how to do body language. And it's simply 4 steps: review, evaluate, analyze, and decide. Yeah, cheesy. It's a mnemonic to keep it in your brain. But let's just talk about review right here. And I can put this in the lessons, is what I just wrote down. I can put read in the lessons. What review means is be a child. Children look and see everything. You don't, because you've turned it off. Turn that back on and just review, meaning look at everything. Look at everything and put things in boxes. You may not be able to do everything the first time. You may need to go and say, okay, I'm going to look at adapters. I'm going to look at illustrators. I'm going to look at barriers. I'm going to look at regulators. I'm going to look at gestures. You may go in and say, I'm going to look at eye movement. Pick one thing and go put it in a box. Don't try to understand what it means. And once you get to the point where you can pick up everything at one time, then you feel comfortable evaluating, tagging and labeling all of those things you're seeing. Then you can analyze, what does it mean, by overlaying it onto what you know. And then whatever you do for a living starts to play into it. It's the reason I say often, once you get this, you'll be a different kind of body language expert than I am, or Scott is, because Scott brought his lots of knowledge from working in the music industry and with people and with his dad's medical practice. I brought mine from the military and then into corporate America and construction and all that. So you're going to bring different skill sets, but start by just cataloging in your head what you're seeing. And you can't go wrong. Just pick one area at a time and start logging it down in your head, or on paper if you prefer.
Here's one from Jamie. Hi, Jamie. Or Jane, however you want to do it. How long does it take to get a workable baseline on someone? Or do you modify it as you go along in an interrogation? Greg, what have you got?
Yeah, so guys, I'm Mr. Baseline. It depends on how complex what you're looking for is. If you're looking for like a presidential candidate, well, it takes forever for us to do that. And we have a hard time because they're product. But if it's a person you just met, I've baselined people many times in 5 to 10 minutes, get a pretty damn good baseline on them. I work in corporate America and in finance, and I meet people all the time that I may never see more than a few minutes. And so you got to get a pretty good feel for what's normal, and then when you start to poke or prod or ask hard questions, look for deviation. If you're looking for every nuance of them, where their eye movement goes, I can pick up very quickly. If you're looking for every subtle nuance, it takes a little longer, but you can get enough to know when they're uncomfortable and something has changed in 5 minutes. Scott?
Yeah. It just depends. I like to get as much time as I possibly can. When we were talking to Don, we've watched him talk a lot, and we talked to him a lot out in the parking lot. And the conversation that you see begin there actually started out in the parking lot when he got there, because we were talking to him, trying to see how he'd react to us, get him comfortable with us. And when we got inside, he saw the cameras and the lights and everything. He started getting a little bit more nervous. But at that point, we could start talking like this, and we could keep it. Every time we lower it, somebody asked about why I was whispering some questions at some point. That's because as you get through these, you want to make that person feel more comfortable. And there's a lot going on. But the guys who did the cameras on this, who shot this, were brilliant, because they made it feel like we were in a room. Although we were in this big conference room, they made it feel really small with the lighting. I don't know how they do it. So somebody else asked about leaning forward. We lean forward because we want to look like we're interested in what's going on, number 2, but at the same time, we can reach out and touch you if we need to. So if something emotional comes up, which you saw Greg do, and which was proper for that time, because we're trying to connect with that person, and the more emotional they get, you can't keep talking like this. What about this? What happened there? So you have to get emotional with them almost. I get in trouble sometimes because I can cry on a dime, or I can well up on a dime. So a lot of times they'll think I'm in the same. I shouldn't be telling this. Anyway, so you want to try to match that emotional state they're in, or draw them into an emotion, so you can get in there and get them to talk about something. So that's the reason for getting quieter, and then leaning forward as well. Leaning forward has several different uses. Greg, why don't you talk about that?
Yeah, so a couple of things. Number one, when you're talking to someone who's in an emotional state, to Scott's point, you should match that with your voice. You should mirror that, get to a point where you're sounding like the person. I don't mean that you're trying to manipulate them, but when a person's emotional, if you can't feel that emotion, you're in the wrong business, is what I always said to interrogators, because all those mirror neurons in your head should be firing like crazy, and you should be able to feel that they're truly feeling something versus faking. And that leaning forward allows me to talk more quietly. It can also be used for pressure. And so, guys, I often say if you pick one piece of body language and stop there, you're only getting pronouns or adverbs or whatever you want to say in the language, because the language matters. If I lean forward and I am compassionate and listening, that's very different than me leaning forward with my forehead down and condemning and sending messaging. So it's a powerful tool in closing space, making a person either feel more pressure or more comfort, but it has to go with everything else. Like when Don was crying about his child, any human with any compassion needs to be able to reach out and touch somebody and say, look, I feel your pain. And if you have that experience, the pain is all the more real. So it's all about being genuine at the right time and not being genuine at the right times as well. That's important when you're doing an interview or an interrogation. Hopefully you're not doing that in your daily life and you don't have someone in that situation. But if you are dealing with someone who is emotional and you just keep battling along with your words the same way in the same cadence, that person feels alienated. And it's a very uncomfortable experience for them. Imagine if you found out today that somebody you love, that they had lost a loved one, not related to you. How would you respond? The natural way is to feel soft and your voice to drop and say, my condolences. And you change instinctively how you talk to that person. When you're interviewing someone, you need to do the same thing. Hopefully that helps.
Yeah, Jims, where are you? I saw you on YouTube. I know you're not in here, so I'll get that taken care of if something's happened. She's always got great questions.
Yeah, Jasmine, good call out. Devil's in the detail. In a video, Greg noticed a guy stroking his girlfriend's hair with his knuckles, which is a sign of aggression. And guys, don't beat yourself up if you miss some things. We've been doing this a long time. I've been doing this since I was young and had hair, as I always say. So it takes a while to pick up some of the details, but you'll pick up the big stuff pretty quickly because you're designed for it. And just open your eyes.
Okay, Georgina
the book
Wilson.
was I Can Read You Like a Book. Georgina, the book is I Can Read You Like a Book.
Yeah, and Georgina Wilson asks, I am an extremely emotional person, so I would do this naturally, but how do I control my emotion? You do that before you get in there, because you're there for a job, and you're there to get something done, no matter how horrific the situation may be or what has happened. You've got to have already know yourself, no matter what comes up. You've got a wall there, because if you really get emotional with them and really break down with them, they'll be in charge, in other words. You'll be like, yeah, and you want to be on their side. So you've got to keep this wall up. And when you feel that stuff coming, you just got to say, nope, that's not it. I always think of a turtle or a chair. Then that gets me out of what I'm doing. I think, yeah, okay, turtle, chair, turtle has 4 legs and a little head and a little chair. So I start thinking about that, but I'll look like I'm interested. But once you feel that emotion pop up, you've got to get a handle on that and control it, because if you don't, that person it'll go sideways on you. That person will be able to leave, and you won't get what you need from that person, so they don't go out and do that again, or so that doesn't happen again. They get justice. Or they get in the trouble they're supposed to be getting in. I don't know how to word that any better.
Yeah, well, and sometimes they're not in trouble because they didn't do anything wrong. But the key becomes you need to be compassionate at the right times and all that. But you also have to suspend judgment and projection. I will tell you, and it hasn't been that long since I've had a gut feeling that someone's body language told me something different. And when you have a gut feeling about something, you have to suspend that too, whether it's positive or negative. And when you walk in and talk to that person, you've got to pay attention to what they're telling you. Because we have so many different things in our life, so many different themes, if you will, that project into our head what something means, that we can easily misjudge someone.
Elron asks, will you be doing a more advanced body?
Scott's going to butcher your name, I'll warn you.
How do you? I don't know how to say that, though.
I don't know. I'm sure it's Elron of some kind.
Okay.
And
Mr.
You know
Marks
what,
asks,
Elron, I would suggest that you write it phonetically, and in the notes, we'll correct it, we promise.
Yeah. Anyway, we would be doing a more advanced body language course for deeper skills and development. Yeah, we are. We're in the middle of that right now. So it's hopefully it's not going to be boring. because we get into the intricate details of stuff. So yeah, that's actually on the way. All right.
Another one?
What else we got?
Maria, you ask, or did we do a show with Nikki Sixx, or did we just happen to be in the studio at the same time? No, we happened to be in the studio at the same time, and Dr. Phil introduced, as he said, I want to introduce two friends and connected us. And so it was neat to meet him. Nice guy.
Yeah,
he was very
what
nice.
a cool guy. Really good guy. Let's see.
He was interested in what we do, and we said, well, we're surely interested in what you did. We grew up in your time frame. So,
Nick asks, do you watch the videos in slow motion to make sure you get everything? Sometimes it depends on what's going on. I noticed on the plane on the way to work I was watching video of something that Dr. Phil sent us, and because what we were talking about was pretty important. So there were some times and the quality they have on their video is really great. So I could blow it up and look at and see if their eyes are dilating and those types of things, and look for little bitty movements around the mouth. But that's just for me, looking for micro expressions to make sure what I've seen before match in the big scheme matches the little smaller things. So I usually don't watch them in slow motion. You know, if anything, I know Greg starts with fast motion to see if anything pops out. I can't do that. I have to watch them and listen to them at the same time. So that's my style of doing it. Sometimes I'll watch without the sound on once I've watched it all the way through.
Well, I don't watch it fast to see if anything pops out. What I do is when I'm doing the videos on a Saturday morning or Sunday morning and finding them, I'll have, my wife thinks I'm nuts. She'll come in and she laughs. I'll have 2 or 3 different videos playing at high speed so I don't have to listen to the whole thing and look for anything that looks interesting for us. And so sometimes it'll pop out. You'll see something odd because they're moving fast. But more importantly, it's about finding the video quality. I'm not a big fan of slow motion. I will use it occasionally if there's something I just can't get and try to understand it. But I always said, you know, I'm the snap to it guy because I interrogated prisoners for a living and taught that. So I want to be able to use it without a video. This video thing has been a hell of a lot of fun, and we're doing good stuff with it. Yeah. And you see things you can't see sitting across from a source. But yeah, it is different.
Okay, Jolan asks, any tips on recognizing and removing personal biases? Greg, why don't you go first on that one?
Yeah, I think I just covered that a little bit because all your biases create your gut. Now, your gut is a gift, as DeBacker says, a gift of fear, but your gut is a gift. It gives you the ability to make decisions. And some people's guts are better than others. I've been pretty good with my gut most of my life. I mean, I don't try to prove my gut right. I try to prove my gut wrong. That's actually the best way to overcome your bias. Go in and try to disprove what you think. And I'll tell you, sometimes you do, and sometimes you don't. And if you prove it right, then it's right, probably, if you prove it wrong. But you need the ability to think as well as to get a gut feeling or make a guess. If you think Myers-Briggs, somebody asked about earlier when they talk about intuitor feeler, I'm an intuitor feeler. Not many of us in the Army. And I'd always have this feeling that something was going on in an interrogation room. And when you're in the Army, they don't want to hear your feelings. They'd say, okay, tell me why you feel that way. So it teaches you to analyze why you feel that way and take apart what your assumption is. That will lead you to removing bias.
Here's a good one, Greg, and you'll know why when I'm halfway through it. This is from Jessica, and she says, what's the best way to handle questions when you're talking to 2 people and one is clearly dominating and controlling the dialogue? That makes me more interested to hear the muzzled person's thoughts, but never sure how to diplomatically make that happen without angering the controller to maintain a connection.
Yeah, start diplomatically, be as suggestive as you can, but sometimes you have to say, hey, why don't you shut the hell up and let me talk to him? Yeah. Sometimes that's the way it works, right? And maybe not that rude, but almost at times.
Yeah, I got in trouble for that. Not in trouble, but there were...
Yeah. You know, but guys, all I want you to know is it's always best to start diplomatically. Some people don't catch on when you're diplomatic, so you have to say, hey, why don't you take a break, walk over there? And it depends on the situation you're in. I mean, if you're trying to talk to the president and his press secretary is there, whichever president, don't take that as a current one, but whichever press secretary is there, you're probably not going to be able to say, I want to talk to him, not you, because they have control. But if you have control, you say, hey, Hoss, hold on a second. I got to talk to this guy. And you can be very polite or very rude, depending on what you need.
This name is one of the coolest I've ever seen. It's Maria Onofrietti. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but it sounds like a movie star.
I think you might have gotten one, Scott.
Yeah. If I've read it, my dyslexia hasn't kicked in. When we know someone is lying and don't tell them we know, but we don't know what the truth is, and we're working on a research project where the truth and accuracy is paramount. Are there ways we can lead them into telling the truth so we can accomplish our project?
Scott, you know what my favorite is? And Scott loves it when I do this to a source. Really?
Tell me more about
That's all
that.
it takes. That's all it takes. Once you put somebody on notice with that lilt of your voice, and then you start locking them down with questions. Don't lead, ask questions. So psychotherapy, as it works, as Freud designed it, gets you to epiphany instead of telling you what to do. And there's studies, I'll find this study and post it somewhere in here. I read a study 10 years ago when I was in business and doing change management that said that the most complex thing for a human being is change. It literally is painful because it creates more stress hormones and that in our body. But that if you bring somebody to epiphany by asking questions, the stress hormones drop and the person then internalizes it and it becomes their decision. So ask questions that lead them in that direction rather than saying, really? Tell me more about that. Gets you into, you heard Jim Pyle say, tell me more about that. What else? Just start asking questions that makes the person realize that the data they're giving you is not congruent with the other data, because it sounds like you're working in some area where you need real facts. So there you go.
So Maria Onofriati told me I got that name right.
Good. Jasmine, I see you say, Greg, I'm so glad to hear your wife is Greek. We're highly animated and love to use our bodies. I find Brits hard to read. Interestingly, I've written in, I believe it was I Can Read You Like a Book, that Germanic men are less likely to use their hands. And by Germanic, I mean all of the Germanic tribes across the north of Europe. We're less likely, and even into the U.S., to use our hands to demonstrate what we're thinking. And if we do, our hands may occasionally rise above our shoulders. Now, this is, again, a bell curve. Men can be very, very demonstrative or less. But most of us raise our hands no higher than this. Mark talks about grotesque playing and passion playing and all that. But if you deal with a lot of Greek men, and Jasmine, I'm sure you're laughing as I do this, you may get your hands up here. My brother-in-law's hands are up here talking. If you get to Brits and people from that part of the world, our hands have a tendency to stay here. So we don't talk as much with our body. And I've always assumed it's very common in the Middle East to talk with your hands. I think the older the language, the more punctuation people do with their hands, just because the closer you go back or the further you go back in history, the more you see that those hands working. I consider it the best part of culture is all of that difference between how we communicate with our bodies.
All right. Dee asks if someone has repeated a rehearsed story to the point of believing they're a lie, will their body language still reveal the truth? Here's the wonderful thing about that. They're so locked in that. Once you go, if you get them to deviate any way out of that, man, they just go off. It almost stops them most of the time. So that's one of my favorite things is to realize someone's telling you something they've told over and over and over that isn't the truth, or you suspect may not be the truth. Man, that's one of my favorites because it's so easy to get in there and tear that apart. Their body language looks like it's on remote control, and the way they say things, and the way their voice, it doesn't lilt, it lopes, but it's this really odd loping of almost like when you see a jet ski and they're going like that instead of like And when that starts, you're like, here we go. This is a good one. Then all you got to do is, on that little timeline there, ask something that is sort of it goes off the road a little bit, then comes back. And then they try to think up all the things that could happen when they should know exactly what happened in that if it were a true story. I hope that
the other problem is this. Remember, I always tell you that if I ask you, Scott, what's the fifth word of the Star Spangled Banner? He's going to go access rote memory, and his eyes are going to go to his internal voice. Now, we know that some people don't have internal voices we hear. They don't have a narrative. But as a person is, I'm sorry, not internal voice, but his recall. And if we tell ourselves a story a million times, how do we tell ourselves? Well, we read, or we listen to our own thoughts. And it becomes rote. It becomes digital. There's not all the accessing that goes with, and tell me what happened when the glass broke. What did it sound like? Oh, it sounded like this. If you think of that, it's like telling a story you've read. And at that point, all of your gestures and everything are tied to that story. But when I ask you a question that should go into visual recall or construct of that, and you repeat it, we've got a problem. To Scott's point, when I take you outside of the scripted, now you see a cadence shift because they have to think. You see them rifling around in their head for information. So all that body language you've learned is really powerful when a person has to break out of that story. Great question.
Okay, here's Jim's. Finally, she's in here. Is there a difference in alpha body language behavior between the sexes? Greg, why don't you go first on that one?
Yeah, so first of all, most people perceive alpha male behavior as strutting like a little rooster. That's actually the exact opposite. If you want to know who the alpha with males is, just for a minute, I'll cover males because I know that portion really well from living in that world for so long. If you want to know the alpha male, he's the one not strutting. The guys strutting around him are trying to outdo him and, throwing their arms back and doing all this stuff and trying to be hyper masculine. That's not the guy. Usually it's the guy who's very calm and contained and in the corner, not moving much or standing, and people are rotating around him. In women, I think more pronounced female behavior, more feminine. Now, guys, again, in the culture, everything is culture dependent. So some cultures, people have a tendency to have different demonstrations of what's masculine and feminine. We're talking about roles, gender roles here. So how that person perceives themselves and how they outlay that is going to have something to do with it. The more feminine behavior, the more mouthy, it doesn't really matter in men or women. The more mouthy the person is, the more they talk big smack about how powerful they are, the less likely they are, if that makes sense to you. Typically, alphas who are informal, who are not appointed, because that's a key, those folks have to use their ability to influence people, their confidence in self, and so they're less likely to be loud and mouthy, male or female, if that doesn't apply when they're appointed. So if there's a CEO of a company and they're mouthy, they have authority because of appointment. So it's a little bit different. But when you have to lead people by power of your personality, when you have to be the person in charge, your behavior is going to be more self-assured. And in men and women, that part is very, very consistent. They're going to be more self-assured and less cocky. That's as a generality. Hopefully it helps.
Hey, let me know if you guys can hear my air conditioner. It just came on. I'll run upstairs and turn it off if it's making a big noise. Norma Von Ammon says, I suspect my grandson, 5 years old, is emotionally abused by his dad, who is a narcissist. They moved from Europe to be far away from us. What can I do to find out if my suspicion is correct? It worries me so much. I have no earthly idea.
Yeah, guys, that's a tough one because abuse is there are lots of kinds of abuse and how people deal with it and how people perceive something as abuse. If a person has an abusive personality, some people are resilient and go right through it and you don't notice. I mean, you're going to have to deal with probably, Norma, I wish we had a great answer, but you're going to have to deal with somebody who's close enough to the child to see if there's deviation in the person's behavior and all that.
Okay, I can see
sometimes,
you on YouTube,
sometimes, Norma, by the way, folks that are narcissists aren't necessarily abusive at home to their family, and they find other outlets for it. So don't know what to tell you in that one.
Okay. Jenna Biazinski.
Aaron, I love
that. What'd you love?
I'll cover Aaron's pretty funny. It's cute. Are wacky water weasel and worm on a hot griddle the same thing? Well, I'll tell you what a worm on a hot griddle is to me. A worm on a hot griddle is a guy who's got nowhere to go. And they start losing nervous energy through every pore of their body, that kind of thing. I think Scott's wacky water weasel is a person who's trying in every direction, not necessarily energy, but something else.
Yeah, freaking out. Anyway, Jenna Biazinski. When we speak publicly, can we use the natural-looking body language to quell nervousness and regain composure? Yeah. And if you watch us on Dr. Phil, I'm standing there at this video thing, and I'm thinking the whole time, sometimes I get the shits and giggles. I shouldn't have said shit, sorry. And so I try to quell those because Dr. Phil's really funny, and he'll do things to mess with you while you're doing that. So I try to regain my composure by trying to just look him dead in the eyes and trying to stand straight, and I'll do my hands like this. When I'm doing like this, that's when he's messing with me, because you can see I'm trying to keep my head together and not start laughing or something. He doesn't do it all the time, but the times he's done it, that's what I'm doing. But you really can. You can think about what you're doing before your presentation, let's say, and you can sort of center yourself. And if you get real calm, there's an app that I use called Headspace. And before every one of these things that we do, for example, I keep saying Dr. Phil because this is when I use it. There's this one called Presentations, and you can listen to it. It's 3 minutes long, really, really quick. And so it tells you how to get yourself centered. So on your feet, so when you're in the middle of your talk, if you lose your place or you get freaked out about something, you can automatically go back to that place and get recentered and go again. So that I've never had to do that, but I always feel confident knowing I could if I needed to. But your body language will help engage. If you look confident, your brain thinks I'm confident. That part of your brain. So I think it helps a lot to do that. Yeah, I agree with you. Greg?
Yeah, so guys, I don't have a whole lot on this one. I've been doing presentations since I was 18 years old, and so I've forgotten, what I originally started using. I will say this: compartmentalize. Public speaking is a task, it's a chore, it's a job. And if you are a person who is uncomfortable doing it, learn to compartmentalize and make it a role. I did theater for years, and a lot better actors than me taught me a lot of stuff, and I was able to use it in my interrogation exercises and that kind of thing. And what I learned from good actors is have a piece of clothing that triggers you into that compartmentalized spot. So when I was working, for example, in the SEER compound, where you need to be believable to the guys you're talking to, I worked with some theater guys who said, hey, when you put this pair of boots on, that turns you into what you need to be there. Forget about who you're at home, focus on right now, and that one thing can be a power tool for you. That's what I learned from actors. Mark's probably got a hell of a lot of cues on that one, but yeah, I've been doing this since I was a kid and picked up things along the way.
All right, let's see. Kate, love Headspace. Yeah, I love that thing. My husband met a new friend who I immediately did not like. I barely spoke to him and got the immediate icky feeling. Can you think of any casual questions I can ask to help me figure out why I'm getting that icky feeling about this guy? Obviously, I can't ask, are you a total creep? Go ahead, Greg. Sorry.
Sorry. Yeah, so, just take your time. People like different kinds of people and don't like different kinds of people. I have a very dear friend that for many, many years, I would have women say, I don't trust him, he's creepy. And I know better. I mean, I've checked and tested, and it's just something about him that vibes women wrong. And he's not ogling them or doing anything, but they just don't feel comfortable with him. And, I've been around this guy in every situation on earth. And, well, not every situation, clearly, but most all situations. And I trust the guy implicitly. I give him anything I have to take care of. But some people just give off a vibe that doesn't mesh with someone else. I would say pay attention. Pay attention. Look for discrepancies between what he says and what he does. You have tools. Use them. Trust your gut, but here we go again. Trust your gut, but look for verification in what your gut says. Otherwise, you're falling for something in your head. Hopefully that helps.
All right. Mark Barron asks, I'm curious, how would you counteract with a person with an uncomfortable gaze and in a regal stance? Well, usually I look at them just like this as they're talking, because it makes them think, I might think something's funny about them. I don't make it a big, huge, funny-looking face, but it looks like I'm looking at them like I'm amused on the inside. That way they start thinking about what's happening. They could be in the alpha situation there, or in the hierarchy of things, be the one in charge. So if they're doing that, then you've got a bad boss. But on the other hand, if it's somebody you're just meeting, or somebody that always walks around like that, I always look at them like I'm getting shits and giggles, because it just looks funny when somebody starts doing that, and it doesn't mean anything. Greg?
Yeah. People who are secure are themselves. If you've watched me in an interview now, you guys have seen us live. Guys, I didn't get all these wrinkles up here because I sit stoically, but I'm really good at sitting stoically as well. When the time comes, having a blank face. When somebody does goofiness like that to me, I do my unamused face.
That's 90% of the time. Yeah,
it works wonders.
Greg, every picture is Greg
just relaxed is all that is.
The funny thing is, say, look at Greg's eyebrows. And then they put makeup on him that made his eyebrows come out.
Yeah. Yeah, you can see Scott was laughing because my brow ledge, my Cro-Magnon, my Neanderthal ancestry comes out when you put color to my eyebrows.
Man, but it just looks, I've never seen you with eyebrows, so it's just really odd seeing them put stuff on there and making your eyebrows pop out like that. Oh, okay. Kay Marm asks, there you are. Do you often see any serious red flag behaviors in the comments section of the behavior panel? Yeah. You can see, some people are there really are people who think we're talking to them through YouTube, or talking to them, and that's why we're doing this and all that. And it's not good. But there's nothing you can do to help those people, But there are a lot of people not a lot, but we see that quite often, and their comments will go on and on and on.
Oh,
Print them out, it'd be pages. And some people actually are making a good point. Sometimes you'll see a scientific thing, and it's like, geez, I got to read that. But quite often, not quite often, but fairly often, you'll see them where it's not good. But I'm not going in there as much anymore, man.
Yeah, me either. Well, guys, I really don't want to be that guy, but number one, it's a time issue for me. When you get 20,000 comments, we can't read all those. But number two, I don't want to take somebody down because I don't agree with what they say and want. But at the same time, abuse is a different story, and you just can't control it at some point. I will tell you that there are red flags. When you see a person starting to accuse and use words and say, a good example is the Gabby thing, that we caused her to die. Never mind that this young woman was dead before we ever put this thing together. You have to look at those people and think, there's several actually over time when I was looking at this and just gave up at about 8,000 because I was trying to answer. Oh my God. Yeah, and when you see that, when people start to blame things or start to point fingers and make it personal, those are red flags, and it's okay. That's how they feel. When it isn't okay is when they start sending things to your house. Years ago, and I started doing TV in that around 2004. Some of the video that you guys found from me doing reenactments of interrogations out there, those were in 2003, 2004. And I did a lot of stuff to cover Abu Ghraib and all those things. The first time I got an 18-page letter to my house telling me you got to get me out of prison and explaining why, that I didn't respond to, and a few weeks later got a 38-page letter, I thought, I need to be careful here. So there are people who are imbalanced, plenty of people who are imbalanced, and they think that, as Scott said, you're talking to them, you design this for them, or you're some kind of conspiracy. Those are the things that bother me. Everybody should have the right to have their opinion about whether we're right or wrong. Everybody should have the right to express their opinion, and I'm comfortable with that. But when it gets to something very personal and talking about you caused this or you caused that, where you have no cause and effect, those are concerning. But great question, Kay.
Yeah. But those things get weird sometimes. There's so many sometimes you can't really, you just said that. Good Lord. And then some
we
people
can't
get
keep up
mad
with
when we
20,000.
don't answer them.
Guys, sorry.
And then with our emails, we get so many emails every day over there at the, the behavior panel at Gmail.
Right.
Man, there's no way to go through all those and go, even though we assign, you take the first 100, you take the second 100, you can't keep up with it, and especially and that's every day. It's unbelievable. And people get mad. We'll get 4 from the same part. You don't answer, right?
Well, so guys, if you're listening out on YouTube, just know that that's why we don't respond. We run out of time. We actually have other projects going on as well. And we try to look at anything that's important. We try to bring back up, if you tag my name in something, I try to go and look at it because it shows up out on Google. And I try to go respond to those. Just like we do behind the firewall here, guys. If you put our name in something you want us to respond to, then we will. And we're not avoiding you by any stretch. We can't read every comment we get everywhere. And we just want you to know, we really appreciate panelists. We really appreciate body language membership, folks, more than you know. We want you to feel appreciated, but we also realize that we can't read everything we come in contact with in a day. And we don't want people screening for us. That doesn't send the same message. Yeah,
so. It would save a lot of time if we had somebody in there going, hello, we are the behavior panel. We enjoy your email. But that's so fake. I always hate when people do that, and you can always tell.
Honestly, if you follow me on Twitter, I try to respond to every person and just say thank you for the follow. The past couple of months with my mom being sick and all those things, I got way behind on that, and I don't know if I'll ever catch up. But thank you to everybody who supports us in any way. So thanks so much. Yeah. Jasmine, is Brian? What do you think Brian is doing? Could he still be alive? My guess is he's hidden somewhere, because in the modern world, if you move, phones are everywhere, cameras are everywhere, and my guess is he's hiding somewhere with some kind of support. That's just my guess.
Yeah. Okay, here's another one from Maria Onofrietti. Greg, you have said people with what has always worked. You have said people go with what has always worked for them. Do you think people can show both true emotion, like with real crying, but also use that as a manipulation tactic? That is, crying, it's not fake, but simultaneously crying is used to elicit sympathy when they get in trouble.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Guys, when I say something, and Maria, good question, and we'll hit some other questions here in just a minute, but when I say a person does what has made that person successful, some people get upset with me when I call us organisms. What I want you to understand by that is that has nothing to do with religious belief or any of that. You are an organism. we collectively are an organism, and the way we operate is whatever we're rewarded for, we behave in exchange for it. If I've gotten away with crying as a tool, I can use it as a tool. And people are really good at bringing it up. Remember that frustration is a reason to cry too. And if you cry out of frustration and you get rewarded for it, you're going to use it that way. And you can still feel emotion in another place and really cry. I will tell you that everybody cries. It's just a matter of what it takes to make them do it. And people who say, I've never cried, I'm usually suspicious of them. I mean, running joke, Scott told somebody the day, yeah, Greg cried when he was born because they slapped him on the butt. But yeah, that was
first time for everything.
If you've just never felt enough emotion to cry, it doesn't mean you can't. And so emotion causes people to leak. Now, crying is different. Some people may cry simply by welling up tears in their eyes and sniffling. Other people may do the full bore, snotty nose, face melting kind of crying. So it depends on the person. You have to look for a baseline there. But yes, it can be used both ways.
Yeah. Here's another one from Kay. Question, RE, the red flag behavior. I've descended into squabbling in the comments over the past couple of weeks. I guess I should stop, huh? You know what? And I do see those when you're in there doing that. We go, yeah, man, Kay's got her back. But yeah, Aldo, I appreciate it, and God love you. Thank you so much. Don't worry about those people.
We love you guys for that.
Because you've got your real name on there, and these people are like, Blue Jay 1421. Yeah, here the whatever it is, and here's what I think, and you did. They're just trolls. Anybody doesn't use their real name in their picture of their face, I have no problem just scooching right by that. And if they cuss, we get rid of them. But otherwise, if they don't say any cuss words, we leave them. They'll do the initials, and we leave that in there. But as long as they don't cuss, we leave them because we really don't care. But I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I really do.
Yeah, guys, thank you for defending us.
But
we really all appreciate you guys who look out for us. What we don't want you to do is get in any kind of trouble, and I don't mean that, like trouble with the YouTube police. I mean, get in any kind of trouble with some knucklehead that you don't know who is out there and who might be doing something. Yeah. We just don't want you to have problems supporting us. But thank you so much for doing that. There are times, Scott and I could be snarky and go in and get engaged in something and do what we do, and because we would set up the next outcome with structured comments.
Their next answer.
There's no value to that. There's no value to that. And we may lose a person along the way that we care about as well. So we try to stay away from it.
I did it a couple of times at first, and man, it was fun. I loved it because I love that kind of thing. I love button heads. Like, that's why we're in this business. I shouldn't say I love button heads. My wife says I do. But,
not me.
Sometimes you just see it and you go, I got this one. I'm going in. But it's hard not to. Man, that's why I got to stay out of there because I get in trouble. I get us all in trouble. Okay, let's see. But thank you, though. Let's see. Book club. This is from Sam D. Book club book for November. One of Greg's books. Which one do you recommend? I got my favorite one, which is The Most Dangerous Business Book You'll Ever Read, which goes before what used to be my favorite one, which was I Can Read You Like a Book, which is the first one I read. And I started reading all Greg's books, which takes about 9 years because he got so damn many of them. But those are my two. That's what we should do, man. Pick one of those. Let's do I Can Read You Like a Book first, then we'll do The Most Dangerous Business Book. Yeah, guys,
what we've decided to do is to start our book reviews will be what I did with Pile, if you've watched that. Talk to the author so you can hear their voice when you're reading the book. Yeah, I had a lot of fun writing that Most Dangerous because I used things I learned from everybody I ever worked with and applied it to business. That was a hell of a lot of fun.
Okay, Janina Vigors says, we love troll fighting. Be safe, folks. Oh, nothing better than a troll fight, man. Yeah, I love it. Anyway, and then, Jolan asks, what would your dream project be? I don't know. I think
still high on my list. Still high on my list of interviews is to go talk to Jeffrey McDonald. I will tell you guys, if we get the opportunity, I think we would all love to have a show somewhere, live, active, go get people on the show kind of thing, and still keep this show. Because what we know is that if we were to do TV, for example, we can't do the depth we do here. We love what we're doing today on the behavior panel, what we're doing here, because we can do this. You can never do the other. And I had a I've had projects that almost came to fruition in the past. One that was based on SEER School that was kind of Survivor with a really ugly side. You go into the compound and try to hold on to your information. It is actually the foundation of what created We Can Make You Talk. We said, hey, we'll get 9 people. The person who survives to the end, the person who keeps their information to the end, gets a big chunk of money. That could be a hell of a lot of fun too, but I don't think that will ever come to fruition.
My dream project would be live like a billionaire. And have them fund it, have the TV people fund it. And I would have like a house with a pool in every room, or a trampoline room. That's what I'd want, a trampoline room. And then I have that. Then I'd have one full of like one of those fans where you run and jump in. It feels like you're flying. I'd have a room of that. It'd be like the billionaire who lost his mind. And I would be the guy who was the billionaire who lost his mind. And they would just set up, what if you could do this? And they would ask you questions about what you would do with your home. That's what I would have, a waterfall in there, and have a shower that was a waterfall, all kinds, you name it, I would do it. Just nuts. That would be my dream project.
Well, while my wife would disagree, I want a 52-car garage with, as you know me in cars. My perfect project would be I test drive cars just to see, only really good cars. I don't want to drive junky ones, but just drive cars just to see how they drive. That would be a fun project for me, even if it was for a year or so. Because I love cars. Scott hates them.
You would see my wife's, the back of her car, leaving our home forever, because you've lost your damn mind. I like cars because you push that one pedal and you can steer it with the steering wheel. You put the gas in and it goes. That's the one I want. Greg wants all these old ones.
Speed, fast, pretty. I've got a 58 Impala. He's talking about old. I got a 58 Impala.
Pretty car. Here it goes.
Pretty car.
Go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, I got a 58 Impala. Love that old car, but I like fast and I like something fun to drive. And yeah, Scott, if it runs, he's okay.
Yeah, as long as it's I can get in and it goes. I push that one pedal. You know, I'm a big honker. Did I tell you this story? I'm a big honker, and everywhere I go, because it's from when I lived in Boston, when the light turned green, everybody honked, and then you go. And so I honk all the time. And so Amber's cut me down to just around, I can honk anywhere around the post office, that one block down there near Ackland. I get that whole block just, and man, the people in the laundry place there, they always look, there's that dude that honks all the time. I'm honking it. Then I got to get out and go in, and people are coming into the post office too. That's the only bad part. They see me and they're like I'm a honker. I don't know what I'm telling them. I need some sleep.
I see another really good question here. This Border Patrol show, this thing that came up, I posted it out on my Facebook page, and I said, what do you think? And I have had a lot of comments. Among those is a Border Patrol agent that I know personally, and he's a mounted patrol guy. Let me tell you, just now I'll mix my human and horse body language for just a minute. The picture I posted, Maria, great question. The picture I posted shows a guy turning a horse against a human to get close enough where he can reach out and grab him. Now, if you've ridden horses, even if you've just ridden hack horses, on a picket line out riding, then you know that when you push on him with your foot, he goes the other way. That's the nature of horses. Modern horses, as opposed to war horses of the past, are trained to move away from humans. We're training them not to run over people, including Border Patrol horses. So it's hard to drive them in close enough to get your hands on someone. I fought on horseback for many years, and to get a horse to get close enough, I could use a sword. That's why there's a sword on my wall, by the way. To get a horse close enough I could use a sword against another guy took a lot of effort. You got to push them. So if you look at the guy, you'll see him pushing really hard, trying to drive the horse to the right. He's pulling his reins, trying to force the horse to the right. He's neck reining, so he's single hand reining. And the loose rein is flying up in the air. Now, he's reaching out and grabbing a hand. This is sudden movement, sudden momentum in a direction. He's driving the horse with his body. If you look, he's leaning out to get the guy. There's no whip involved. This is him trying to get his hands on this guy and trying to force the horse to get close. 2 comments. These are Mustangs, typically, rounded up off Bureau of Land Management and broken by prisoners who may or may not necessarily be the best horsemen. So these horses are not like riding a $20,000 cutting horse or reining horse. Just so you know. That's tying all my world together so you get a feel for it.
Now, if you can put a car in there somewhere, put an old car that makes a lot of noise, that'd be Greg's dream. Here, Maria on a Frieti says, show idea, Greg and Scott traveling to interrogate Bigfootery people. Yeah, man. Think about it, Greg. That would make a good show.
That would be a great
dream show. That'd be Greg's dream. That'd be Greg's dream project. Going out to talk to people who've seen Bigfoot. Yeah, man.
That would be it. That would help. That would help, Maria. You're right. You know what, John? I don't watch as many YouTube car guys. I watch, I watch Motor Trend TV or whatever they call it now, and I also watch a couple of other channels on there. I love Top Gear, and I love those shows where those guys get in and do things. And the guys who Roadkill Garage, who take old pieces of junk and drive them across country, you got to love. But yeah, I like almost all those things because it's just guys working on stuff.
Okay, let's see what we got here. See, Aaron deleted her post.
Georgina, here's a question from you. Do you rehearse before going into an interview and plan the questions before? Well, when you teach interrogation or when you do interrogation, there are canned or prepared questions, things that you don't know a lot about, so you got to kind of put your questions together. I like the source-directed interview style interview, which means I ask you a question, you bring up something, I follow the lead, and I follow your conversation. Now, I've got things I want, and I anchor those points. For example, if I'm talking to Scott, and I'm talking to him about something he did Tuesday, and he brings up a topic, I'll reinforce that by repeating the word to create an anchor point I can go back to later, and then redirect the conversation, and then or let him ramble, and then when he gets to a point where there's something I'm not interested in, I'll use that same anchor word to bring him back to that point in the conversation. So I may say, he's talking about Barney's Beanery, and I may go, Barney's Beanery, just as a point to leave an anchor there. What's that? And I've anchored a place where I can go back to. Then he talks, he gets to a point I'm not interested. I said, tell me more about Barney's Beanery, and I redirect the conversation back to where I'm at. So there are tools we use in interrogation or an interview that are powerful, that allow us not to have to script too many questions. Hopefully it helps.
Jim's asks, when we do a physics show, everything's been
psychics. This is what happens when dyslexics, the next thing you know, Scott will be telling, when Scott's reading, next thing you know, he'll be selling his soul to Santa. So
no kidding. Well, Jim, as the energy of motion, as an object approaches the speed of light, the energy of motion is converted into mass. That's the... when we do a psychic show, man, that'd be great. Man, you're talking about a lot of hate, though. We'd get a lot of hate mail for that, but I'd love to climb in that one. We should do that. Well, we talked about it, and everybody keeps saying it. We should do that, Greg. Let's start. Maybe we won't do just one. We'll do a bunch of them, like we do.
Yeah, let's do that for Halloween. Maybe we could do that for Halloween.
No, on Halloween, let's do people who've seen monsters and stuff. Ghosts.
Bigfoot.
That's what we need to do. We need to get on.
No, ghosts. Yeah.
Ghost Adventures, those guys. It's like it's like the Three Stooges locked in a haunted house. These three guys go out and they find, never found one, but they sure look really hard. They have a lot of proof, but you never really see a ghost. That's a good idea.
Hey, Kay, thank you for that name of the ex-police officer who's seen Bigfoot. That's a good place for us to start. Me, I'm a big... guys, the reason I'm interested in Bigfoot is there are 320 million cell phones in America. And Paris Hilton can't go out of the house without somebody taking a picture. But we don't have a credible picture of Bigfoot. Come on.
I don't think anybody cares about Paris. Greg is almost 59, so there you go. So Paris Hilton still, she came out a month ago, and she's out there. She was somebody. I'm like, oh, okay.
And guys, we went to Dr. Phil's show. We hung out with him a little bit to talk to him. That guy can't move without a camera in his face. So if that's the case, why don't we see Bigfoot? That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, we're going to lunch, and we pulled up, and these people just jump out and start taking pictures. Like, what the hell? Let's see. Okay. Hey,
Adele, here's a question. Will you be analyzing your interview with Summer's father for membership here? Guys, our intent, that while we were the two doing the interview, we were just the tip of the spear. That is a behavior panel episode, and we certainly are going to cover Don Wells' behavior in that episode. But we're going to do it as the behavior panel because we all structured what we were going after, how we would approach it, and everything else. We can only have two people in the room, and it just Scott and I went.
Yeah.
And Chase couldn't make it that day. Yeah.
Yeah, and Mark's stuck over there in
Mark's stuck in Canada until
Toronto.
the U.S. decides to open the border. So yeah.
Yeah, but we all talked. We said, make sure you ask this, make sure approaches like this. So it's all of us really doing it. And John Michael Venegas says, hey guys, can one of you quickly touch on the buy zombie idea mentioned in yesterday's best of video, and give us an example to try it out? By zombie, I don't remember that. No,
he was talking about passive voice, and it simply becomes anytime you're using a word that means something happened without explaining who did it. So, for example, The window was broken by zombies. The cookie was eaten by zombies. That's passive voice. Interestingly, in English is difficult sometimes to pick up on what is passive, but usually it's past tense. There's not a person listed who did that. So it's, some languages in Arabic, for example, there's an entire tense, an entire way of creating a word to indicate that it's passive. But in English, it can be pretty tough. It simply means anything that there is not an identified person who did it. He killed her. She was killed. He broke the window. She broke the window. The window was broken. So you're looking at passive voice is all he's trying to illustrate there. And if you, by adding by zombies at the end, all you're really doing is saying, hey, I'm now identifying the actor in this sentence. Make sense?
What we were calling Spaghetti and Bajite Olson, she says you say it Spaghetti. Yeah.
That's great.
Okay.
Thanks. Thank you. We really need that. That helps.
Yeah, I like when they do that, especially for me. Okay. What else we got here?
Oh yeah, somebody who is a Bigfoot hunter and a car guy. Thank you, John. I got to look him up.
Wait a minute. Maria says no Bigfoot pictures of skeletal remains because Bigfoot is an alien visitor, not a native. I thought that too because I saw there was a UFO and Liberace was driving it and he was throwing out. He had like parked it and he was pushing out big crates of Bigfoots out of the back of it. So I'm pretty sure Elvis was actually pushing them out. So I think you might be onto something there. We'll probably need to talk to you. So be sure you put your information in the comments that we can get a hold of.
Yeah, I've lived in parts of Georgia where if and some of my family members probably, if there was a Bigfoot, they would have a Bigfoot coat. So, it's just or stuffed Bigfoot somewhere. So
Susan Rogers asks, when a person is on a lot of prescription medications, does that change their baseline? For instance, I'm disabled, so my medications change my body posture. But then sometimes it doesn't at all. It depends on the sleep I had the night before. How do you read a person like me?
So, Susan, we'd have to look for what's normal for you. Remember, baseline only matters when we're dealing with something. And this can happen even with a person who's very, very tired. Remember, when you work prisoner of war interrogation, when you work SEER, these guys in SEER have been out in the woods for an indeterminate number of days with no food, only water, or only a canteen and some iodine and a knife and a piece of rope. That's all they have. So they're pretty tired when they show up. So their baseline is tired. And so their body is not what it would be normally. You have to look for the baseline that time and look for what's deviating. When I start to poke and prod, then and something changes, it means something. If your posture, you guys are all good at reading it because several of you have asked Scott, is he okay today? And he's worn out from traveling this week. But his baseline today is Scott tired versus Scott rested. So hopefully
we don't have COVID. We know that's for dang sure.
Oh, yeah. I've had my nose swabbed more times.
I've had more stuff stuck up my nose in the past 6 months than Ozzy Osbourne for the entire 80s.
Boom.
Let's see.
Yep, we're happy, Adele. We're happy that Mark may be able to travel as early as November. That's great news.
Yeah. Lady Mick asks is there a specific way you break videos down? Do you slow them down, mute them, etc.? How many times do you watch videos? We sort of went over that earlier, but Greg, let's tell them our process. We'll start with you, and then we'll go to me.
Breaking down videos. Yeah. So every one of us is a little different because we come from different backgrounds, of course. I'm the guy who finds the videos. So the first time I watch them, I'm looking for interesting body language. I don't analyze it. I just say, hey, there's something going on. Or is there something I really need to dig into? The videos we dig are not because, and we have a great example we'll share with you later, not today, about something we did last week. But having the right eye to pick out the body language video to start with to say, is there anything useful in here? Or is it just gibberish? Has it been so edited we can't do anything with it? And then what I do when my time comes, I list timestamps on a sheet of paper, send it, or on an email, send that over to Scott. He cuts those, sends them, puts them in a box. Once they're in a box, each of us has a different process. Mine is I usually watch them straight through one time and say, that's interesting. Here's something I note. and I just put it on a piece of paper, just a few things. Then I walk away, I come back in an hour, and I watch through each video individually, and I go through and start looking for what matters to me. That's how often I watch them. Now, there are occasions where I'll watch another time if it's really complex and may slow it down. But most of the time I watch it the first time in high speed to find a good video. I look, Jim Pyle asked me this, do you look at macro and micro separately? No, they just jump off the page to me and I see what I see. I miss things sometimes because I don't do that process, but that's my way. Scott, how do you do yours?
Yeah. Okay, so when Greg sends me the times, I'll look at those. He always goes, are these good? What do you think about these? And so I'll go through and watch them. Sometimes they need to be a little bit longer, in my opinion. So I'll say, what do you think? Should this be longer? It's like,
yeah, we go back and forth, yep.
Yeah. So I'll go through and clip those out, then put them in the Dropbox. And then I have a folder on my computer where I go back and watch those one at a time because I really don't get a chance to watch them in depth the first time through. So I'll watch them, and then if there's something really weird that happens, I'll start taking notes on what's happening from a neurological standpoint, why they might be doing it. That's why all of our approaches are so different. Greg goes the big stuff. I go the big stuff in brain-wise, what's happening. And then Mark goes off on stories and Greek mythology and all that stuff. Then Chase will get into studies and come from a little bit of a little bit more microscoped than those, and talk about the studies that he's gone through for those.
Well, what I love about it, though, Scott, is you bring the neurobiology. Chase has all these studies that he's citing. Mark has this culture thing and this sweeping story. And I always, every time we do this, it's interesting for me to see where it's all going to tie together and what the soup looks like. If it were not for that, we'd just be four guys sitting in a room talking about the same exact thing. Because we all see mostly the same things. You hear us occasionally disagree, but we all see mostly the same things. We just have nuance to it, and that's the part I enjoy the most about the show, actually, to be honest with you.
But we fight and fight and fight before we start the show. That's all we do. Yeah. And so we look so angry when we show up. No, we don't fight. Yeah. We never had a fight, I don't think.
No, I don't think so either. We may disagree about a thing, but we disagree in front of the camera when we disagree about it.
That's true. That's true. Okay.
We don't try to cover it up. We don't try to say, no, I believe it because you said it. It's just not how we work.
I find, Adele says, I find people misread me often because between my eyes I have two very deep lines. These are deep. These are always present, very noticeable when I'm concentrating or on what others are saying. But people think I look confused or don't agree with what I'm hearing. Anyway, I can counter this negative impression. I tried Botox, but these lines just won't go away. Actually, I have some big ones too. You can't see it on this thing. Those right there. Greg has those as well. They're pretty hardcore. But that's from going, is this guy fun? Huh?
Yeah.
You know, so you're all the time looking at people like that. So ours stay that way mostly. But it looks like we've got horrible lives or something because it's always looking like that. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, try to have a pleasant look on your face, I guess, because I always have people, when I'm training people I was talking to an attorney yesterday, and we talked about how to have a pleasant look on your face even when you're in the parking lot at going into the courthouse, because you don't know who the jurors are, they don't know who you are, but they'll see you and think, oh, I don't like that person because they look negative when I saw them. They don't think that up in the front part of their brain, but the back part of their brain. So practice in the mirror at home. It sounds weird. You got to close the bathroom door so you don't look like something's wrong with you, and just find a pleasant look that works for you, that you feel easy doing, and then try to have that most of the time. You know, it's not fake, but you're just trying to be pleasant, but you're thinking about not looking concerned the whole time or confused. I know people like that. When there was a situation one time where me and a buddy of mine were being interviewed by somebody, and the guy interviewing us, every time we'd start talking, he'd just go like that. It was so disarming because we would both start laughing because it was like he couldn't believe what we were saying. He was just asking us basic questions to get clearance for something, and it was just odd. It was just odd. So if he had a normal looking face, or somebody said, "Dude, you got to stop doing that," which we did because it was so funny. But just try to find a pleasant look for your face. As corny as that sounds.
There's only so much you can do about this. You know, I've got it myself, and I just try to be friendly, and you know, my behavior is friendly, and people are they're probably off put by I look like I'm mean and then I'm not, so it helps.
Yeah.
Kay, you ask a great question. Do you find Mark's comments as unpredictable as I do? Yes, I do. Wonderfully, fantastically unpredictable. It's one of my favorite parts of the show, honestly, is that Mark sees things I don't see. And it's what adds value. I think Mark, you can't overvalue what Mark brings to the show with the way he looks at things. And, you know, all three of us are somewhat hammers because we've interrogated for a living. That makes us look at things with a jaundiced eye. And Mark does too, but he may sometimes bring up just something I would never have thought of. So, yeah, I think it's wonderful.
Okay, Jasmine says, love the banner. You guys crack me up. Show us more bloopers, please. Actually, there was a guy, when we do these videos of compilation things or best ofs, it's because we know we're going to be out of town or we're not going to be able to be there. And we have a guy that goes through and picked out a bunch of that stuff. So one of them he just did was the blooper stuff. But when you watch it, it's so corny. You know, nobody wants to see that stuff. You know, if we do stuff that goofs up in the show, great, but nobody wants to see us. Oh, I'm so, you know, it just seems so cornball to be seeing us doing stuff that we would think is funny, and it's just, you know, plus we leave everything in most of the time.
Yeah. Some of it is just, we're not that funny guys. You probably see some of our funniest. We're just goofing around behind the scenes. It's not really interesting for the most part. But yeah, I also see John Michael, you ask another question. When are you guys planning to do the next guest on body language tactics? Probably next week. We are both home and got a couple of guys. We got some interesting guys lined up. I'm hoping we can bring my Sears School mentor online. He should be fun. We have a couple of old interrogators I know. We got a couple of other folks we'll bring in. Scott, you got any other ideas, or you think next week is probably about realistic, right? Next week will be realistic because I don't think we're going anywhere. I don't have anything that's going to make me leave town or anything. Somebody on YouTube said Mark would be the scariest one to interview me. I think. I don't think I couldn't help but get the shits and giggles if Mark was interviewing me for something, trying to be all serious and. Oh, I should have said that, but it's true. That's because you know Mark.
That's true. That's true. If you did, it wouldn't be. It'd scare me to death, man. If you turned on me, that'd scare me to death. I'm just telling you.
I'm friendly.
Sure you are. Yeah, you're the friendliest guy I know. Greg's Greg's a monster wrapped up in a little sweetheart. That's what you are, Greg. Isn't that right?
Yeah, that's it.
Good Lord. Listen to you over there telling people you're a sweetheart.
I am. I'm a sweetheart.
Yeah. Oh,
all right.
yeah.
So let's see other questions. But yeah, you're right, John. You're dead on. That's exactly what I got.
What?
Yeah, we call it RDF, but same thing.
What's that? RBF?
Yeah, resting face.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. My flat face is not pleasant for most people.
No. Watch Greg on our behavior panel shows. When he's sitting there doing this. And then one time he froze, and Chase thought he was mad at him because he wasn't saying anything. Let's see.
Okay. Are we running out of questions, guys?
I think so.
We don't want to keep you on here just to keep you on here. We love your questions. We'll keep going. But yeah.
Oh, thank you, Jessica. Let's see here. Let's do a couple more. We got to get off.
Yeah, we got to run here shortly. So if you got one hot, put it out there. Guys, we really enjoy these things. I'd love to get to a point where we can get you all together. It will be an interesting time. Get face-to-face somewhere at some point.
Let's see. Oh, and if you want to join Body Language Membership, go to bodylanguagemembership.com and join us in there, and you get your questions answered. Plus, we got a lot going on in there. There's our personal thing in there. We haven't been in there this past week or so because we've been doing a lot of traveling. But this coming week, we're not going anywhere, so we'll be right on top of it.
Yeah, somebody said if Mark went all bomb threat, I would lose myself. The thing is, Mark's an actor, remember, and so I have no idea what Mark would be like as the bad guy. You know what I mean? He could probably pull off just about any choice he wanted to, but it'd be interesting to see him in the bad guy role.
Will we be doing? Maria D'Angelo asked, "Will we be doing Cassie laundry on the behavior panel?" I don't think so. We got a couple of takedown notices, like our the Don Wells and Candace Wells thing we did originally. the news people got onto us and said, "Oh, we got a takedown notice," which means we had to take that off. Now on Twitter and things like, "Oh, they've taken down their thing on Dawn and Candace." Well, but we got to take down. We also got our. We're going to catch a lot of flack because we just got 3 of them for Gabby Petito. So unless Dr. Phil can clear us on that, we won't be able to use it. We'll be taking those down. Everybody go, "Oh, they were wrong. They admit they're wrong. They're taking it down." So that's the only part I dread about that.
Yeah,
you know what makes me mad about that whole thing is people are going, "You missed this one." No, you didn't watch till the end where we said all the stuff that you say we missed, and we know you didn't make it to the end because you wouldn't be able to say that if you did. That's what makes me so. And then they'll see us on those updates. They're like, "You see now, you've changed your story." Yeah, no, we didn't. That's when going back to the trolling, man, that's why I want to get in there and light them up real big. But it's a troll, so you can't win those. No telling those people are. All right, man. Shoot, it's time to get off here. Let's do one more.
Yep.
Let's see. Can we do a collective virtual call? Yeah, we do those, but man, they go so quick. We've had to postpone these last 2 weeks.
One question somebody asked, I think this is about, can we do something bigger? Can we do where we do more than one person, more than 2? That might be an interesting one. We will post some opportunities for one-on-ones again, and we'd love to do that with you. Sorry, it's taken a little bit of time, but yeah, we'd love to get together with you guys if you keep your eyes open. Scott's going to post some more times out there, and we'll do some one-on-ones next week. Okay?
Yeah, that's a good idea. We should do 3 or 4 or 5 at a time. If we could do 5 at a time fun. And just maybe what we should do is do 3 of those. One-on-one.
Me too. We love doing one-on-ones. But what we should do, Scott's next week, let's set up 3 that have slots for more than one person. Okay. And then people can jump into them and get to know each other and talk. And we can go that way if you want it to. Okay?
Okay. That'd be good.
And I'll call you and get some time set up.
Okay. Do you have my number?
I think so. Okay. Hold on. It is. I'll tell everything.
All right. Okay. Well, I guess we should end up here. Now, if you want to join Body Language Membership, go to bodylanguagemembership.com. If you're on your computer, then apparently for the last couple of weeks, millions of websites have this thing where it says, don't go any further. There's a problem with it. But our web guy's supposed to be getting that fixed. Go ahead and go through. My wife's home. Go ahead and go through. Yeah, and you can join there or do it from your phone. There's no problem apparently with phones, but I didn't find that out till this morning, but anyway, so Nick's on that, Greg, so he should have that fixed, I think, fairly soon.
Great. Thank you guys. Thanks for your time as usual.
And this week we'll be in a little bit more because we're in town, and we're not in the middle of something, so we'll be able to get in the comments more. Like now, I think I spent some time in there. So thanks so much for joining us, and come back next time and get ready with your questions. And if you want to join and ask questions, come on in so we'll be able to get to those, because, man, there's some great questions on the YouTube stuff. Really good ones. All right. Well, thank you all so much. Let me get us out of here, Greg. And we'll talk to you all in a bit.